Hey there, Jeremy here. In this video, we're going to get an OpenMediaVault 6 server installed on VirtualBox on Windows. Let's get this started. We're on our Windows 11 box. We're at the OpenMediaVault website, openmediavault.org. If you go to download and testing, it'll start the download for the 6.0 beta version. So we're going to cancel that. I've already got that downloaded, and so we'll jump back over to our other screen and we'll launch VirtualBox. We're going to create a new virtual machine, OMV6, and we'll accept the default machine folder. Type is going to be Linux, and the distro base is going to be Debian 11. We'll say next, and we're going to give this 8 gigs of RAM just because the system has 32, so 8 is not really going to make a difference as far as overall performance on the Windows side. So hard disk, this is going to be for the install disk that we will install OpenMediaVault on. This will not contain data that we are storing, and we're going to increase that up to 10 gigs and create. Now jump into settings, system, turn off the floppy drive. We're going to add an additional processor core, enable PAE NX. Display we can skip. Storage, we'll click the icon and we'll choose create a virtual optical disk. Click add. And here in our downloads folder, we can see our OpenMediaVault 6. We'll say open and choose. Come down to network. We want to change that to bridged, and everything else we can leave alone. We'll say OK, and we'll go ahead and start this. And so we are going to take the first option, which is install. And we're going to accept mostly the defaults. And this is moving at a nice clip. The one thing that I did not do that we'll do when we go back into the settings is we're going to change this, the storage drive to be on a solid state, which should help performance even more. But we will get to that in a moment. And we're going to call this OMV6 blink. .local, it's fine. Give it a root password. Take note that this will not be used in the web interface. Select your time zone. We'll get the rest of our data copied to the disk. And then we'll jump to the web interface. This is as good a time as any to point out that OpenMediaVault 6 is still in beta. This has not been fully released. It is not considered stable as far as the developer is concerned. So take that into consideration. This is a great time to start playing with it and experimenting with it and learning the configuration. However, you probably don't want to use it as your main OpenMediaVault server quite yet. Select our archive mirror, no proxy. Okay, installation is complete. Make sure to remove the installation media. If we jump to settings, storage, that is already showing as empty, so we're good there. We can continue. And we'll check here, make sure as well. And that's good. And so this should restart momentarily. So it did not pick up an IP address on my local network. So we're going to log in here and check out what the IP address is. You use the credentials that you assign the password for during the installation procedure. Do IP space A. It will give you down here next to where under the second Ethernet adapter, it will show iNet, and then it will give you your network address. So this is 223. So we will come down here to Firefox and we'll jump over to the web interface. And we've got OpenMediaVault 6. Again, this is beta. So the default username is admin and the default password is OpenMediaVault, all lowercase, no spaces. And it is recommended that you change this after you have completed your basic configuration. My only complaint here is that it does not have a select all checkbox, which would be nice. This is for the dashboard setup. And as you can see, the only service we currently have available is SSH. It shows SMB CIFS is running, but it is not enabled. So just take a quick look. System, date and time is set for an NTP server, so that's good. We're going to come down to update management and updates, and we will go ahead and run our updates as the very first thing we want to do here. And again, this should be fairly quick. Okay, so we have reached the end of our updates. We can go ahead and close that. And we need to log back into our dashboard. Okay, let's log back into our web interface. And the first thing we want to do is change the auto-logout time period. System, workbench. The auto-logout is set to 5 minutes currently. Since we're going to be doing a lot of configuration, we're going to set the time to 1 day. So if you go 24 hours without any activity, it will log you out. But otherwise, if you log in once a day, you're good until the end of that day and halfway through the next day. So we'll go ahead and apply that. Yes. All right, and so at this point, we're going to shut down our system for just a few moments. And we'll say yes, and we'll end up back at VirtualBox. If we minimize our browser, we're going to come back into settings. We're going to go to storage. And on our boot drive, we're going to set solid state drive. And then we're going to add our storage drives. And so I'm going to add a separate controller. I'm going to make this a SCSI controller. And then we're going to add 2 hard drives, 2 virtual hard drives. We'll say create, next, next. And we're going to call this OMV. We're going to call this store 1. And we're going to set this to 20. Create. And we'll do create. Next, next. And we'll set this to store 2. And also set that to 20. Great. Now we'll say choose, and then we'll go to add, and we'll select the second one, and we'll say choose. Now we have our 2 storage drives. We want to set both of those to be solid state as well. And let's start our server back up. Let's jump back to Firefox. We'll log back in. Dashboard looks good. We're going to come over to storage and disks. Maybe. Let's go to RAID management. And this, my friends, is why you don't necessarily want to run a beta version of OpenMediaVault. Because sometimes things break. And we're going to log out again. If all else fails, switch browsers. So I've jumped from Firefox to Chrome. And so now we can go under storage, disks, and we can see that we've got our 2 20 gig disks waiting to be used. We go to RAID management, create, and we're going to just make this a mirror. Select our devices and click save. And the check mark say yes. And that will build the RAID mirror on the two 20 gig disks. Okay, so now we've got our mirror created. If we come down to File Systems, again we go to Add or Create. And we're going to call this, we're going to say we will select the device, give it a file system, we're going to call it ButterFS, and save. And that's going to create a file system. And close. Come over to Mount, which it automatically took us to. We select the file system. And the usage threshold, we'll leave it 85%. And we'll say save. And yes, we want to mount the file system. And click the check mark in the yellow and say yes. Okay, so now we've got our mirror formatted with ButterFS, the storage capacity, the amount used. It is mounted, but it is not referenced at this point. And that's when we come over to shared folders. We're going to create. We're going to call this shared 1. Select the file system, which we've only got one on the system. And we're going to leave this alone. Administrator read write, users read write, others read only. So basically anybody that's got an account on the system, on the OpenMediaVault system, will be able to read or write to this shared folder. Anybody that does not, currently it is set to let them see items and they can open the items, but they will not be able to save the items or make any changes. And we'll save that. Click the check mark and say yes. Okay, so we've done our shared folder. We've created shared 1, and it is showing as not referenced yet. And this is where we need to go into services. But before we start configuring services, let's add ourselves a user. So I'm going to add a user for myself. Create. And for groups, we want to be in the SSH group. Right there. That will need to be saved. And check mark and say yes. Okay, so we've got our user set up. Under settings, we want to enable home directories, and it wants to know where we're going to put the home directories, and we're going to put that on shared 1 and say save. So now we've got our home directory set up. If we come down to services, we're going to go easy to start off with. SMB CIFS, shares. We're going to create a share. That's enabled. Share folder is just going to be shared. We are going to make that browsable. And I think that will do it for our settings for right now. And so we come down to save, click the check mark, say yes. So now we've got shared one, which is going to be a public folder. So let's come down to the File Explorer in Windows. Network. And that's going to refresh itself. And it didn't find it. Okay, so we'll take one more quick look. This is on 223. Jump back to File Explorer. And we do double backslash. And it's not liking that. So what have we got here? Cancel. Let's jump back over to OpenMediaVault. SMB CIFS. Settings. What did we do? We didn't enable the service. Save. Check mark. Yes. Okay, now let's take another look here to network. And there we go, OpenMediaVault 6 B-Link. And it drops us in shared one and home folder. And we can create a folder. Call that test 1 from Win11. And so we have verified that we have connectivity from our Windows 11 machine to the OpenMediaVault 6 virtual machine.